gone down with the boat?
No, I've never almost gone down on a boat. I've been in situations where it was a possibility.
Really?
Yeah, but we've stayed on top of it.
No shit. Like
Yeah.
getting water in the boat?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had little holes in the bottom of the boat.
No shit.
Yeah, and dove in the water. There's this stuff called Splash Zone, which is like JB Weld,
Yeah, JB Weld.
but
Yeah.
it's a lot stronger, and it's made to kind of
Plug it up
Plug
for
it
the
up.
time being.
yeah. But Splash Zone is also meant to be applied in water,
Right.
like submersed in water. So when you mix it up, it's two parts.
Yeah.
You got your Splash Zone and then almost like a hardener, and it's putty.
You need it
Yeah, it's like
to
putty.
activate it.
And you put it in a bucket of water
Oh.
and you mix it up in water.
Oh shit. How do you do that oh, you're not going to do it really fast if you're...
No, you don't do it fast.
Yeah.
You do it like a system. You got one guy who's just mixing it up in water, just taking little pinches of this, little pinch of that, mix it up in water into like a ball.
Yeah.
And then he gives it to another guy, and the guy starts laying it out, forming it over the hole. And you can apply it out of water, or you can apply it in water.
Got it.
And it doesn't really break apart that easy, and it stays on. So what we did was one guy went down, dove onto the boat, and started applying the stuff onto the water. It wasn't a very big hole, but obviously a hole in the bottom of the boat's not good, and it's
Right.
gonna float anyways.
Yeah.
So you start applying it underneath, and then we had another guy on top doing it. But before you do that, actually, I forgot a part. You pretty much take rags or wedges or anything and just pretty much try and plug it up
Stuff
as
the
much
hole.
as possible.
Yeah.
Create like a surface, something for the splash zone to bond to, so it's not just floating in the air. Because then as the boat goes up and down and it pushes,
Oh.
it'll push a hole through itself.
Okay.
So you kind of try and put something under there for it to kind of push on to hold its form. So yeah, we were in one of those situations where we did that. Plugged the hole. Obviously pumped out the water. It takes a little bit for it to harden. A couple hours of just
Oh, it takes a couple hours to harden.
yeah,
Oh,
and it's
shit.
literally just a couple hours of just constantly just pushing it back into place, forming it, making sure it's
Wow.
it's going to stay plugged up. But then it hardens, and fuck, dude, it was hard to once that stuff set, dude. It was hard to even get it off when we hauled out of the water.
Really?
Yeah, you could have left that stuff could still be there right now,
No
and we wouldn't have a
way.
problem.
No way.
Yeah, it's that solid.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I've been in other instances where there was this little skiff that this company I worked for owned, and they were trying to do little 4-man charters for more personal, like smaller families that just kind of want to go out and fish, do what they want
Mm-hmm.
on a smaller boat. And that boat actually sunk at the dock once,
Oh.
where it got hung up on a piling. Whoever tied it up too tight, and as the tide changed, it got hung up and kind of flipped over just a little bit. So water started pouring in, and as the tide came up, it was weighted down on one side. So it was actually the lip of where the door was
Yeah.
to go to the transom was open enough for water to keep pouring in. So it actually sunk at the dock one morning, and I got a call at like 3 o'clock in the
way.
morning that this boat was sunken on the bottom. So I had to start pumping it out, and we ended up getting out of the water on a trailer, just a little skiff.
Okay.
And we sent it out. It was an insurance job. We sent it out to this marine place that does that kind of work.
Yeah.
And whoever worked on the boat did such a terrible job with it.
Really?
Yeah, every aspect. I mean,
Yikes.
bilge pumps weren't working. Hatches on the transom were not sealed right with silicone. All the electrical on the electrical panel was just done so terribly. Where
Wow.
I remember on the way out on this day, and I'm going to go more into the story in a minute here. On the way out on this day, I was trying to adjust our trim tabs so we sit even. And there was a guy sitting behind me on this little bench.
Yeah.
And to the left of him is where the little freshwater hose comes out.
Yep.
And the hose wasn't connected. So I was adjusting the trim tabs, trying to fuck with them so that the boat would lay evenly as we cruised. And I hear the guy behind me goes, "Are you doing that on purpose?" I turn, I go, what are you talking
What
about?
do you
What's going on? He goes, you're squirting me with the hose. So as I'm trying to adjust the trim tabs, I turn around and look behind me, and I'm hitting this button. And every time I hit the button to put the
Hits
trim
him in the
tab up,
face.
it's squirting water out. So that button was turning on the freshwater hose. That's how bad they did the wiring.
Wow.
And I found out later while we were out there that the bilge pumps weren't working.
Huh.
I'd hit the switch, and immediately the breaker would pop.
Ugh.
And so I kept having to hit the reset, and I would get like a little squirt of water out.
Oh man.
And it's supposed to be automatic and manual.
Yeah.
So one of the bilge pumps worked on automatic, and one of them worked on manual only. So I was kind of limited there. And as we're sitting there fishing on anchor or anything, I kept hearing the bilge pump kick on. Like I could hear a little buzz
Yeah.
when it kicks on.
Right.
I'm like, wow, it's kicking on a lot. And, a friend of mine is next to me in a little bit bigger boat. I called him on the radio, hey, can you see over the side where, the bilge pump's supposed to come out? And he goes, yeah, I can see that. I go, okay, let me know how often it comes out and how much water is coming out. Because I couldn't really look over and see what was going on too well.
Yeah.
And he called me 15 minutes later and he goes, yeah, it's kicked on 5 times and there's been a good amount of water coming out.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like,
You're all, no.
okay. I was like,
We gotta go.
the weather was getting a little rougher, so I'm like, all right, guys, I'm calling it. Like,
yeah. We gotta go.
for safety reasons, we're out of here. I don't know what the office is going to do, give you money back, whatever. You can talk to our office lady when we get back.
Yikes.
And, I told them, like, they're very good about this kind of stuff, like making sure you're happy and accommodated. So
Yeah.
I was like, pretty much ask for whatever you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not my money.
Of course.
Yeah. So we headed back to the dock. I dove the boat, looked for cracks, leaks. I opened up the hatches, looked inside, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And as I was closing the hatch, I kind of paid a little more attention to it. They never siliconed the outside seal of the hatch.
Oh,
So, the hatch, it's like a little screw-in hatch.
Yeah.
You screw it in, it has its own little gasket to where it sets in. I was
Right.
looking at that, making sure that was good, that was fine, it was brand new. And then there's the outside plate that's, you're supposed to screw it in and I put silicone on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, what are the odds this is the problem? I took out all the screws and it came right out with no silicone
Oh
on
my
there,
gosh.
on both of them. So the entire time we were out there fishing, water was just pouring into the transom
Jesus.
and just
man.
filling the whole back of the boat. And the bilge pumps weren't working.
That could have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Oh, so, it's funny. People are supposed to be fixing this stuff. I mean, these are lives.
Yeah. And
know.
this is a pretty reputable place.
So they just, what happened?
Whoever did it, whoever was working on it, just didn't know what they were
Fuck it.
doing. And there was no, quality control. Whoever was, training the guy or whatever wasn't on top of it, making sure he was doing it right. It could have just been some guy they just hired and, he could have lied on his resume or whatever. But no one
Right.
checked
But,
to make sure he did it right. And I ended up sending a video to the owner of the place because I over the years became kind of friendly with this guy.
Yeah.
I ended up sending a video of me pressing the trim tab button and watching it squirt out the freshwater. And he was so embarrassed. He felt so bad. And they ended up taking the boat back, redoing all the wiring and everything. I told him about that, and he was very embarrassed. But it was an insurance job. We didn't get charged for the second part of it, but I'm sure they still charged the insurance. I don't know what went on payment wise.
Yeah.
My boss took over after that.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's pretty bad, man. That's like a huge
Yeah.
insurance claim.
That
right
that
there
could have
after that.
that could have gone bad, and I can think of a couple guys who could have ran that boat, and that had ran that boat in the past. And if it was them on there,
It would have been a whole different story.
it could have been a whole different story. Whether they caught it or
Yikes.
not, whether they would have been fine because the automatic bilge pump was working at the time.
Yeah.
Later on, it stopped working.
Yep.
But yeah, that could have gone many different ways.
Could have been bad.
Yeah,
That's amazing, man.
yeah.
That's not something you want to mess with.
No, that's definitely not a situation you want to be in.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the two of the sinking situations I've been in where it could have gone bad. It never got to a point where it was bad because it was caught early
Right.
on.
Right. It could have been ugly.
But yeah, if
The
you
right
weren't so
person.
vigilant
Yeah.
and kind of paying attention,
Mhm.
it could have gone very badly. It could have been a whole different story, a whole different outcome.
Right.
Yeah.
God.
The one on the skiff wouldn't have been too bad because I'm fishing a fleet of boats. There's 100 people around, and they're all paying attention.
Yeah.
And even if I wasn't paying attention, I'm fairly confident I would have gotten a call from someone else there. One of my buddies fishing around me saying, "Hey, your water line's getting higher and higher in the water.
Yeah.
Like something's going on. You got to check that out." But this situation where we got the hole in the bottom of the boat, we were the only boat around for hundreds of miles.
Dude.
Yeah. So that could have been a whole different situation.
You could have been using that life raft.
Yeah. On the way back up, we went straight in towards land, and hugged the beach the whole way up the coast.
Did you?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Just in case, the thought process was if it does get bad, if that splash zone breaks, and we didn't have any more, if it got to that point, we were just gonna put the boat on the beach.
Yeah. Run it aground.
Yeah. This way we'll be on land and not
not in the middle of the ocean.
stuck in the water. Yeah.
Sink the boat. That would
Yeah.
suck.
Yeah. Yeah. At least we'll have, not only be able to recover the boat, but
Right.
the chances of injury would be a lot less.
Yeah. That's the main thing,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. God. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. I mean, there's people out there that have way gnarlier stories than me. Like we've talked about,
Well,
a friend of mine.
You're only 21, 22 years old.
Yeah.
You got a long time to go.
Yeah,
there, buddy.
I'm sure-
You'll have some bad ones.
I'm sure at some point, it's destined to happen.
yeah.
But yeah, I got some friends that got way worse stories. Like I've
Yeah.
told you, a friend of mine who was purse seining, has been in 3 helicopter crashes.
Yeah. God.
Yeah, out in the middle of the ocean.
Let's talk about
and,
this.
Yeah, I think the back, I think it's the rotor blade, the one on the back on the tail.
Yeah. Yeah.
That either broke, it stopped spinning, or shot off or something like that.
Yeah.
And they lost control of the helicopter, and the helicopter went down in the middle of the ocean when they were flying around looking for tuna on the surface.
Oh my God.
So that went down. The pilot ended up dying, but my buddy did not. He ended up surviving the crash.
Yeah.
So he grabbed the body of the pilot and was floating in the water, and he was trying to save the body so that the family could have something to bury.
Yeah.
Have a place to remember his body just wasn't lost at sea.
Right. Right.
So he was floating with the body in the water, and he was in the water for 3 days total. About a day and a half later, he said the body just got so mangled and tore apart by sharks
Yeah.
that there just wasn't much left. And he was concerned. He said at that point he didn't care about his life. He was more worried about saving this body. Like he didn't mind the sharks coming up, whatever. He was hitting them, in the nose and the eye, whatever, to get him away,
so
kicking them.
crazy,
He
man.
felt them come by his feet, and he would kick them. And yeah, the body. He said the body got so mangled by the second day and a half, and he ended up letting the body go, and then just floating by himself, and ended up getting picked up by the boat. I think right before the 3rd night.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah,
That's bonkers.
yeah, yeah. That's crazy. I mean,
Psychologically, that's to have all that happen
yeah.
and then go 3 nights out in the middle of the ocean by yourself.
And he's still doing it.
I
I feel like a lot of people
man,
would have quit
I
after
gotta
that.
beat this guy.
But,
I got so many questions.
Yeah, this guy is the worst luck with aviation. I
Yeah.
mean, 3 helicopter crashes on his last trip recently. On his last trip down to Mexico to meet the boat, his plane landed with no brakes, and they ended up going off the runway.
I don't want to be in an airplane with this guy.
Yeah,
But I want to ask him questions.
yeah, yeah.